What do you expect the Leveson to say on Thursday?
Well, I think he'll come out with some sort of system which will have statutory support in some way. I think he'll be very keen to make sure that whatever system comes out, that it puts an obligation on newspaper proprietors to actually belong. The news today that some broadsheet editors agree with that position makes it even more likely, in my view, that he'll come out with that.
Okay, so what do you want to hear from them?
Well, essentially that. I think there needs to be a system which provides an obligation on newspaper proprietors to take regulation seriously. It mustn't be a system which allows for prior censorship. You should be able to write whatever you like, but then you should take responsibility for it, and if necessary be punished for it.
So how was your experience at the Leveson inquiry?
Yeah, it's interesting. Being interviewed by the legendary Mr. J. He really is a very good operator, and it was very interesting. But the process really is about what happens before, obliging you to think about precisely what you want and how it's going to work, and that was really, really useful.
Oh yeah. What was the evidence to the inquiry that you gave?
Well, I was giving evidence on behalf of the National Union of Journalists. I was one of their 4 people who gave evidence to the final Module 4, which looked at what might come in the future, and the General Secretary of the Union, Michelle Sanistreet, and I were called together. She had already given evidence, so I tended to give most of it, and she just supported with some of the material that she knew best.
Were you intimidated by appearing at such a large inquiry?
Well, I hope not, no. I mean, obviously it's a bit nerve-wracking. It's the High Court of Justice, and most of us, thankfully, don't spend an awful lot of time in there unless we're professionals. And you're well aware that what you say is going to be written down and can be quoted back to you at any time. But it was very useful to give my views and to know that he was giving them due consideration.
Are you happy that there was an inquiry?
I think it was inevitable with what had happened, and it's certainly long overdue. We've been fighting through the last 10 years against a system, the Press Complaints Commission, that clearly wasn't working, and something needed to happen. It's a shame that it's happened quite so dramatically, but probably that was what was needed in order to get an appropriate system.
What do you think the worst case scenario will be?
The worst case scenario is going to be a statutory tribunal. I don't think he'll go for that, but it is just possible that he'll get that, which would be driven by a judge, and that ramps the whole thing up because it would require lawyers and all the rest of it.
Okay, and finally, how do you think the press should be regulated?
Well, I think it should be a self-regulatory body, or independent regulatory body rather, that is underpinned in statute so that their authority has to be imposed across all newspapers. So if you breach the code of practice, which will be drawn up by the industry, an independent regulator which has representatives of the industry on it would look at whether you've breached it, and if necessary could have punishments up to major fines.
Thank you very much, Chris, for speaking to us. Thank you.
Thank you.